Hello, friends. Welcome. I am Ananda Rose. Thank you for joining me today. I have with me the very lovely Alex from Woven Whispers NZ. Hello, Alex, and welcome.
Thank you for having me, Rose. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. How was
That's
your
good.
day so far?
It was nice and relaxing.
Good, good. And I see the storm in the window there. It's come
Yes.
through the camera.
Big-
Well, there was a lot of hype about the storm, but hey, we live. That's the
Mm,
culture we have in New Zealand, right? I mean, we just
yeah.
keep moving, just keep moving, just keep swimming, like Dory said,
Yeah.
you know. So, Alex, today I thought it'd be great for us to talk about your work because we've actually connected. Well, we've connected to my family through my family, but we've also connected because you come to the Classy Crafts Market and you have a beautiful market stall with all these crocheted items, and you've got one behind you there, dream catcher that you're making, and you're using your creativity. But we talked about that stuff in a video for the market, but this video is for the channel, the YouTube channel, because I love what you're doing with your energy. Because you said something like, I infuse it with energy last week, the last time we had the market. I thought, oh gosh, that's interesting. Tell us what's all this about.
Um, so it's to be honest, it's pretty simple. Anyone can do it, and women have been doing for generations and different religions, different capacity through different paths. And people might even be doing it without conscious thought, let's say, right? So the actual infusing part is not that hard, I would say. But it came to me in small increments, right? While I was finding my path and expanding my spiritual knowledge, or where I wanted to go with that, or where my curiosity led me, alongside with my hobby, which was crocheting. It's not only crocheting, I can also do um, tambour embroidery. So it's the one with the needles that you go up and down. So I made like a
Okay.
beautiful wing, a colorful wing for myself from one of my jacket with sequins and beads and stuff like that. So it's just handcraft in general that I'm quite passionate. But there was always the I think a problem that all crafter have, that at some point you have too many of your own items and start giving things away, and people is like, oh, you should sell that, but I didn't want to sell just it felt incomplete, just the crochet. And that's when that energy work came about, because I
Okay.
use it with myself. So the majority of my items I tested on myself or in others. um, Volunteers, okay. I did get volunteers, it wasn't forced. So I started dealing or working with the energy for myself, and it was working so well. And it helps me so much that I just wanted, if I thought, like, if people only knew that it could be easier, they could have a little boost, a little help, a little hope. And that's when I merged the two. I'm like, some people won't have the knowledge to do it consciously, so I can give them the spark. So
Okay.
those are my items. So the energy I infuse with every single practice I've learned along my life, it kind
Okay.
of merge into one. You
Okay.
know,
Okay. Alex, please, all you have some items that you could show us,
I
right?
do.
Because I want to talk about this. It's just going to give us some more in-depth details about your items because I think
Yes.
that's pretty awesome. Okay, go on.
It is. So I have, that's my very first item I've ever made. That's four-leaf clover. And it's for luck, because who doesn't want luck? And sometimes you just need a little bit of luck to break, like a bad spell you're going through, like years and years of nothing working. And you just need a tiny little break. And I was already always interested with crystals, right? So I mixed the two right here to start with. I know it's a tiny little one because it's a key ring, but we have a green aventurine. Okay, so it's also very good for luck, for healing as well. But as you know, you have the tool and you work that tool however you want, right? So this one is overall luck. So it helps heal blockages. So what are you doing that is blocking that luck of abundance or general luck to come, And that's the energy I infused with.
Right.
So the infusing method itself, it's a various different um, ways of infusing, I suppose, and I learned them on different stages of my life. So when I was a bit younger, so my teen years, I did a Wicca course. So Wicca, the religion, right? And it was beautiful. I did go on a soul searching. I was raised on the Catholic Church, Roman Catholic. So I still have very much Jesus and God in my mind, but I opened up for everything else. And throughout my search on, I think it's that initial spark that everyone has. Is like, why am I here? I know it sounds so cliche. It sounds so cliche, but that's exactly how it started. It's like, what the hell am I doing here?
Yeah.
Like why Earth? Why Brazil? Why my family? So that's how it started because I just couldn't agree completely with the Bible, right? So that's what put it on my path. I'm like, no, that can't be. That doesn't feel right to me completely. Something is off, let's say. um, so when I did the Wicca course, of course there's candle work, there's incense, there's working with crystals, there's working with pendulums, that's identifying energy. How do you measure energy with a pendulum? And so that part came when I created my side business, because I also use color magic on the candles. I use the energy of fire, of the elements. So I have moon water. I make moon water almost every full moon, because I do infuse my items with moon water. I can clean my house with moon water.
Yes.
I clean all my tools with Palo Santo or rosemary,
Ah,
or sage. Sometimes I prefer more Palo Santo, rosemary,
yeah.
sage, more when I need a boost on spirit. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
protection as well.
Yeah.
So there is that witchy side that comes through. But there is also Reiki, because I do have Reiki course, and I keep my studies are still ongoing, right? I think it will always be. But I have some Reiki as well. I have one from Brazil that is with the four elements, and it's I think they called quantum command. So I actually have to use my voice. I
Yes.
activate stuff with my voice, yeah. And I did here in New Zealand. I did the traditional Reiki,
Yes.
right? Level 1, and I'm going to do the level 2 in June, I think. Yeah, so that's exciting. So that's when you start seeing things are not very different, because at the same time I was developing my spiritual side. At the same time I studied so many different things. I was pushed towards this way, because after my teen years I kind of shut down. I was just living my life. I was lost. I was trying to find myself, and I didn't focus on that side. And I did have something happening when I was 38, that it started getting increasing or escalating until I was back into the path, or searching for answers and studying, right? And so with what I had and the new found knowledge, I started seeing patterns, and I started creating my own things. And I can tell you, the majority of the things I done and I do, I didn't know if it was a thing. So at the beginning, and when I say beginning, it was last year, because I created this business last year, a year ago exactly.
Yes.
So I'm very proud of myself, of where I am at the moment. Doing
Absolutely.
markets and all. So at
Yeah.
the
Yeah. So you
beginning, the
should be.
problem,
Yeah.
yes, right. So at the beginning, my internal dialogue was, who do you think you are that you can do this? And like, why do you think that work? Like, where did you read such a thing can do that? And of course you can, like, you have to keep, you feel the fear, and you just push it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I let it
Absolutely.
paralyze for a second, and then you just push it, and you just keep doing it, because I wasn't doing anything else. I wasn't really selling yet. It was just friends that I told about, or family. So they were buying my stuff, and I could see working on them. Sometimes they couldn't, because it really depends how well developed you are to notice if an energy item is working with you or not. Like if you're not very grounded, if you're not very aware of your surroundings and your life, you won't notice if something happens. Like
Mm.
anyway. So that's when I started getting. The more I started trusting my intuition, the more I started trusting my guides, because I was getting in touch with my guides at the time. I was exploring that spiritual guides and higher self path. I was I was doing the Reiki courses, I was doing numerology, and then I was doing frequency studies and how does that actually, and I was actually looking at science stuff to back it up. And then I think things started getting on a higher level, that at some point for me, it was all energy. It doesn't matter how I do it. Technically, I don't need any of that. I literally can just sit with you, hold your hands, and we're going to work with that. Does it help for me in my meat suit to use a candle, or maybe rings of protections to feel pretty? Yes, it does. It helps. Do I need it? No,
Yeah.
no one needs it, because it's energy. I'm
Yeah.
energy, you're energy. Everything is energy. As long, and because you touch it, because you work with it, you can just access it and work with it. But because I'm on my 3D life, I do like the smell of incense, and I like the frequency. I can feel it
Absolutely.
physically,
Yeah.
my yeah. So then I started having confirmation of what I was doing, and it was as intuition is. You're minding your own business, and then suddenly you see on your feed a video of, like a witch that is like generational witch, and she's just confirming the work I'm doing. Because I'm like, why would I think that I can infuse a material with energy? And then that's when I went down to search that, because she was mentioning that this has been done for ages. It's people engraving and sewing symbols into their clothes for protection, while they're whispering their protection, keep me safe, keep me,
Oh,
harm, don't
yeah.
harm, that
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the same thing I'm doing. So it's like I was getting the information from someone, but my mind was like, because I didn't read it, because nobody taught me, because I didn't have a degree on it, I didn't go to university. I thought it was my imagination. And then that's when I believe it was my guides and my helpers going like, no, it's not here. Whenever it was appropriate, I would get whatever I was doubting, the information would come through and say, there are people doing it. You didn't create out of the blue. It's not something innovative, like nobody ever done it. Hey,
Oh,
so
oh, you know what? I'm just gonna. I want to just say something to that. I love your
yeah.
passion, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Speaking, when you're speaking, you're lighting up when you speak
Yes.
about this. Okay, but I've got to say, yes, 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 yes. There are many other people doing it, but in your world, you were the person awakening to it. That is why it was surprising, because those around you are not speaking of it and feeling like about it like you were. And then of course it's like new, and then your ego is going to get in there and say, are you sure you can do that? Are you sure this is real? Whatever, right? That's going to be the story. But I've got to say that even though other people have done it, my feeling when people tell me things like you're telling me is that you are meant to be doing it right now at this time and space to awaken those around you, you know, to this thing. And yes, women have done it for generations, and maybe in past lives you would have done it yourself. And you've just come back in this time and space to do it again, to remind people, to awaken them to this thing that can be done. Because, I've as you were speaking, I'm just thinking, I've never thought about it. Like some people do, it's like doing art when you do, like when you paint something or whatever, right? You can do art,
Mhm.
anybody can do art. But if you do art and you're really tuning into your intuition and your team of light, you might get a very different result from if you did not do it with your intuition and all of that, right? And that's the thing. People have been doing art like that, you've got these artists like, I don't know, da Vinci and all of that, that the art is going on forever. Why? Because perhaps intuition was there. But nobody really tells you, I'm doing this with my crochet,
I'm sure
right?
there might be someone out there.
You know what I mean? It's not a common factor,
No.
but if women have been doing it for generations, women have been doing it in the, when witches were out there being called witches and being, I don't know, slandered or whatever. The point is that in this time, this space and time, you have come through with that part that you have to share with the collective. And
Mm,
it's amazing because you're talking about, okay, I'm going to crochet this little four-leaf clover, and in it I'm speaking to it, I'm speaking healing into it, I'm whispering my intuition into it, I'm whispering energy into it. And what have we got? We've got this thing that somebody can carry, put their keys on it, or put it in there and have it in an ornamental fashion, however they choose to, but they know that it's infused with healing. It's
mm,
infused to clear blocks. If they're feeling blocked or
yeah.
disorientated or indecisive, they can hold this in their hand and say, please bring clarity. Please clear the blocks. Please bring
Yes.
wisdom. They can just do
Exactly.
that, right?
Yes.
And
That's all
so
they need to do. That's all they
that is
need
all
to
they
do.
need to
Access
do.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to say something else about something you said. You said something about, oh, anyone can do it. I bet anyone can do it, but you're
Yeah.
the pioneer for it. And you are showing people that anyone can do it. But it's not been I don't know about your journey, but I know for me, it's been that journey for me of self doubt has been a lot to get to where I am and to where I can boldly say what I say about myself these days and my
Mm,
work, my energy healing. I just said to somebody a couple of days ago, I've never thought of myself as an energy healer.
yeah.
When I started the YouTube channel, it was to talk to other people who are energy healers, esoteric teachers, etc., and tell people about the work they're doing. But in more recent times, I've had to come to see that my light language is what I offer to the collective. But
Mm.
it's one of the things I offer, right? And it's about how long we take to accept what we're doing, that it becomes that reality for us. Coming back to what you're doing, I have this question now because it's been occurring to me a while as you've been, quite a few times as you've been speaking. So I know you've done Reiki, you've done all the education side of it, but surely before coming in and doing Reiki so that you can say, I'm a Reiki master, or learning something else, or wickery, you call it wickery, right? Wickery?
Witchery.
Witchery,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yes.
Before doing a course is what I mean in any of
Mm.
these things. Something in you was taught was awakening you to something intuitive. What was that? When did it happen in your life? Were you like 5 years old that you knew something was intuitively different? Because even
Uh,
you were saying, even as a Christian, you question some of those things, or Catholic, you question some of the things the Bible was saying to us. And you thought, oh no, actually, I don't know that I agree with that. So already that spirit of questioning, that spirit of questioning was in there. And um, so surely the intuition was awakened longer than you think it was, right?
the yes, I think now that you put it that way, perhaps, but I don't think it was a conscious thing. So, like sometimes we're studying those um sometimes we're watching videos and we are looking at all those people that are now teaching um how you can walk your spiritual path, and they are like, like when I was born I saw an angel, like there's that childhood, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, my childhood was normal. I'm the youngest one. I didn't have an imaginary friend that I could associate, hey, my clairvoyance was always on point since I was born. I don't have that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm the youngest. My childhood was fine. My teenagehood was fine, just like teenage problems, like does the boy like me, stuff like that.
Yes, yes.
But like when you put it like that, so perhaps it was around my how old was I? I think I was 13 or 14, around that. But it was more like because I was studying on a Catholic school, I had to do the confirmation, right?
Yeah.
So I was already baptized, but I had to do the confirmation. And that's when I actually had to study the Bible, read the Bible, and I had to read the Bible on my own time as well. And some of the things I was just like, young people, like, well, why don't they just upgrade the language? Because who talks like that? That was my first thing. I was just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like it. Somebody needs to put on nowadays language. But it was just like it wasn't resonating with me. I'm like, it's that, and I think perhaps it is intuition, because it's that the same thing. If we take off on a religion context, and you put on a people context, and you have this, you're dating this guy, or this guy, or a friend or whatever, and they are telling you one thing but they're acting differently.
Yeah.
So that's what I had with the Bible, and I'm like, they are saying there is this all loving God, but he goes like, at least on the Old Testament, and they go and they absolutely, I don't know, it seemed quite harsh, the Old Testament.
It does. It does seem quite harsh, and
Yeah.
it's interesting. I'm sorry, you have a neighbor that's in the
Yeah,
video,
yeah, I
but
just saw it on the screen.
he was like right by the window earlier, and then he got in the
I think
car,
it's
and
because
then
it's Higuera. Do you want to pause or
no,
no?
I'm
It's
all
okay.
right. We can carry on as long as you don't have a
Yeah,
problem with it. But because
yeah,
we really can't see him, and
yeah.
and
I
all of
can't.
that.
I
So I'm
just
okay.
noticed.
That's all
Yeah.
right. I have no problems with it. But let's
Sorry,
carry on. I mean,
life.
God. Well, thank goodness we had another person in the video other than you and I
Yes,
just
see,
talking. We had
it's
some
not
excitement.
AI. Yeah.
Anyway, Alex, I like what you're saying about that, and I think, like, I have a Christian background too, and and that's a story for another time. But thing is, when I went to Bible college, I always had this, firstly, I always had this relationship with God. And you know how you go to God through Jesus and all of that, I
Yes.
could
So
not
for me, it
understand
was
that, and
Virgin Mary.
yeah, always
Yeah.
went to Jesus, to God, because I mean, like, I didn't see why Jesus had to be the way, right? And
Mm.
sorry for anybody who's Christian who watches this. I'm not discounting it. We're just talking about our personal
Yeah.
experiences here. However, so I had a relationship with the Holy Spirit and God, because
Mm.
that's the intuition and God. But over the years, I've come to know, just carried on being a Christian. But when I went to Bible college, and then I started to feel like, some of these things that I'm learning here tells me I have been on a trajectory. I've been on a pathway that's question marks, a lot of question marks.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting that that happened to me. And you're saying, like, you were like, oh my gosh, well, what is this? But let's come back to this. Let's come back to, so I get it. I think
Yeah.
sometimes this is part of our evolution here. And Christianity, or Catholicism, has a part to play, because it's, for many of us, it's the part of our awakening journey. I'd never regret my years as a Christian.
Yeah. And I haven't abandoned
No,
completely. I mean, I
no.
have Jesus coming through now and then, and I work with him.
I work with
But I
Jesus
also
too.
work with the Greek gods, I'm like, oh, I work
Exactly,
with no God.
exactly,
Sometimes I just work with the energy. Yeah.
exactly. And the thing is, I'll tell you what, I was just talking to somebody about Jesus yesterday. Yes, yesterday. I was talking to Kirsty about Jesus, because we're coming back from Rodoponamu.
Mm.
And one of the things I always say about Jesus, or Yeshua, is that I think he would have been a cool guy to be friends with.
Oh, yeah.
And he did a lot of things that people don't acknowledge. I know they acknowledge a lot about him, but they also don't acknowledge, like, hey, he questioned the religious leaders and politicians. Excuse me, and this is a normal thing to do. It's an okay thing to do. But he's amazing, and I work with him, and I work with Mother Mary, and I do work with Mary Magdalene, and my belief is that they sit on the Intergalactic Council. They are one of the members of the 12 Intergalactic Council members. I believe they are there. So they still help us, but maybe from a very different perspective than we have been told
Yeah.
in our Christian walk. And that's okay if we are all entitled to believe what we want to. That's freedom of choice.
Yeah.
Free will that we have, even Christianity tells us that.
Yes. Very much.
Let's continue with you. And I want to talk about, so it would be like from about 13 years old, you started to question this. But
Yes.
so through your life, how have you moved out of that and into more of where you are now?
So around that time, then, well, I still had to complete the course anyway. So I completed the course, but I just learned not to question, because every time I did say why is that, I will get because I said so.
Okay.
I was born on 85, so I think it was that period, like don't question things.
Oh no, even longer
So,
than that. It's coming
even longer
from
than that,
it's coming from from the people of the 1940s,
yeah,
1920s. Don't question,
or
just follow.
18, yeah.
Yeah, 1800s. Those people. Yeah,
1800s, yeah. I think it goes really, really, really far back.
yeah.
So anyway, I just stay quiet, but life goes on, but then it does. At some point I was like, oh, I don't know, because I'm not feeling it, there must be something else. So then I started searching, right? So my father, my grandfather from my dad's side, it's Buddhist. So he was born in Japan, and he had a actual funeral. The funeral ceremony was beautiful. Like they had this beautiful gong plate that they kept ringing and chanting, and it gave me goosebumps. Like they have incense,
Oh my gosh.
and it gave me like goosebumps. And then I studied that a little bit, but then I just couldn't get past the you can reincarnate in as a worm. And I'm like, in my mind at that time, I thought that was, I don't know, maybe a stare, like why would I come back as a fly, But anyway, so I was like, I don't know, I'm not feeling. So there was still that feeling, is like, this is not for me. So I did search another some other things. Some I wouldn't go through because I already knew that it wouldn't resonate, like Hinduism or something. Not Hinduism, sorry, the Muslim.
Oh, Islam.
Yeah, Islam, yes. So I already had some friends that were, so I had an idea of their beliefs already. So I knew it already didn't resonate. And then at some point I don't know how I found that course. So she was a high priestess, and she was giving the basic course on Wicca, the religion, right? Which is different from paganism or witchcraft in general, right?
You
That's
just
actually
taught
a
me something.
religion.
Yeah, you just taught me
Yeah.
about Wicca today. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's actually a religion. So if people say it's weekend, then it's normally a religion that you go. And then there is loads of just witches. They just do pagan or folk magic and stuff like that. They just work with nature. There is no religion associated with that.
Okay.
But I thought it was the first one that it actually got me curious enough to stay. And I thought it was just beautiful, the work with nature, and it's always balance of energy. Like if you want to attract something for you, you just get the things that have the vibration. And when you do it, you get that leaf, you get the incense, you get the candle, and then you get a water. You find the day of the week that the planets are aligned, that will work better for you. And then you just do your ritual respectfully, calling the gods if you want to. You don't have to. They teach you about your protection, so protecting your space energetically as well as physically. So that was very interesting coming from the Roman Catholic Church. It was like, oh my God. And then I think I ended up just getting lost in my life, right? So for a good chunk of time, um, I was just living my life, went to university, then I decided to move here to New Zealand. Well, actually I came to visit, then decided to stay in New Zealand. And then, that fight that every immigrant has with, not fight, but what's the word I should put here?
The
But
challenge?
yeah, well, like
Oh,
of staying,
yeah.
with
Yeah, like do
immigration,
I go? Do I stay?
yeah.
What's
And it's
happening?
like
Yeah,
every
I
year
know.
you need to apply for the
Stop start.
visa.
The stop start,
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
So that's why I mentioned it was like I was in a hiatus for a very long time. Did that stop my curiosity? No. Did that stop me working my energy or actually helping people and healing people? No. But I wasn't doing consciously, okay? Because it is what it is, right? You do what you do. You just don't know you're doing it. So when I was studying it's when I noticed things started changing. And I remember because I wrote down on one of my journals that I had to write down because I'm like, it's significant. It's so significant that I'm noticing. So 38 years old, I started having out of body experiences. Now, I didn't know it was out of body experiences. I thought it was a nightmare, because I would wake up and I thought I was awake. My room would be the replica of my room, exactly how it is. There was nothing dreamlike, and it was just me lying on my bed. And I will wake up in the middle of the night, everything is dark, and I don't know why I woke. And then my legs will be raised, and somebody was trying to pull me off my bed. And then
Okay.
I would panic because I was paralyzed, so I couldn't move and I couldn't scream. So I'd be like, oh, and then I would try to wake up, and I kept trying because I was freaking out, and then I would wake up. So it would happen like maybe sporadically at the beginning. It was maybe once every 3 months, and then started shortening the period to the point that I was having once or twice in a month.
Okay.
And then I was in, and it started escalating. So I would be able to get out of that paralysis, and then I would try to turn the light on, and the light wouldn't turn on. So then I would know, okay, I'm dreaming. I have to wake up, because I couldn't see who was trying to pull me out of my bed. Then I started also doing self development. So after a really bad heartache, which completely broke my foundation, like I didn't know who I was anymore. I was lost. I was in the rubbles
Okay.
for a very long time. And then at some point, I just decided to go within. I'm like, I just need to go within. So I started doing therapy to help with that. So it's a lot of things combined. And then I went within. So I started getting in touch again, and just with a tarot reading here, reacquainting myself with colors, color magic, and meanings. I've always been very strong on dream since I was 7. I remember my dreams from when I was 7 years old still, So I
Wow.
remember 2, 3 dreams a night. So it's always been very strong throughout my life because I worked on that. I always had a dream journal. So things were coming through my dreams that got me curious, and I would start searching meaning and stuff. So I was slowly coming back to that until one of the channels I followed at the time had a guest. And she was actually Swedish, and she moved to America. And she is a doctor. She's actually a doctor, like a general practice, and she didn't believe in anything. Um, I think her father was a rabbi or something like that, but she didn't believe. She didn't have any belief. She didn't believe in God. She thought nothing. If you die, there's nothing. Blackness. And she was telling her story and how she got in touch with her more spiritual side, and she became a medium. And at that time, I was also already curious about mediumship. And then I was watching a few of the videos of the great, mediums in England, and that beautiful Arthur Findlay College they have in England, which is pretty much Hogwarts for mediums. It's beautiful. So I was curious already. And she had an appointment. She would see people. And I booked her. It was an impulsive thing. It was around my birthday time. I was like, it's my gift to myself. It was a bit expensive because it's US dollars. And because I didn't know what I needed, I knew I was lost. I didn't know where to go. I'm like, where do I go? Because I'm healing. I'm healing myself. I stopped smoking. I started exercising. I lost a lot of weight. And where am I going from here? Like I
Mm-hmm.
was like, what do I do? There's more, but I don't know what the more is. So that's my focus when we started our meeting. I said, well, I would like to know that if you can help. But I mentioned the nightmares. I thought it was nightmares, and she mentioned it's actually an out of body experience. And then that took me down that path, like of
Okay.
searching and
Okay.
trying to figure out what that is. So she actually was the one who got. We did a meditation together, and then she asked me to tell my experience during the meditation, and she told me her experience, and then she put the two together. She did get in touch with my main spirit guide, and she said it was a tribal woman. And she's my main guide, and normally your main guide reflects your life path. And she said she was a tribal healer, and she's here with you. You made an agreement with her, a contract before you came, so she will guide you because she already walked that path. She already became a healer, So she's a Ascended Master. She was somebody here on earth at some point in history, and she was just here in spirit now to help me go through the past. And that dream, I was having the out of body of experience because the night before I had that meeting with her, I had my last experience, out of body experience, and I saw who was pulling my feet, which was an old lady. She was like really small and hunched, and she had
Okay.
kind of like a black hood, a cloak with a hood, And she was like, she was looking at me and pulling my feet. And that's why I stopped struggling, because I was just like, what, who are you,
Yeah.
And apparently it was my great grandmother. Like, I haven't met her, but she was very into folk magic, in Brazil. Like, she was just a regular person. I don't think she had any religion, but she always had rue, a branch of rue on her um, apron. So rue is protective, and it banishes negative energies. And she would wave that thing around when she thought there was a negative. So there was a little bit of a witch in her, although she wouldn't use the name. So she said that she actually has been trying, and it's been becoming more frequent, because she was trying to awaken me, because I was about to, like, I was 38, very close to 40, and she said, it's get like, you need to
Getting
move, you need
late.
to move.
It's time
Yeah,
to do
you
it.
need to, yeah. So that's what, and I'm like, interesting. So then I got in touch with spirit guide. She told me who it was. My name, Alessandra, come from Alexander, right? Which is savior of humanity, or protector of humanity. I'm master number 11, which is also with healing and humanity. So it was kind of like things started going, like
Oh,
fitting like a puzzle.
awesome.
Yeah. And I'm like, interesting, because my mind went like, I've never wanted to be a doctor. What do you mean a healer? And then she was like, no, there are different ways you can heal people, And
Exactly.
I figure out I've been doing all my life by
Wow.
talking. I talk a lot. I love chatting with people. I'm one of those people, like most healers are. You're standing at the bus stop, and somebody with a heartbroken will, or sick, or going through stuff, they will somehow find you and start talking to you about their life. It
Yeah.
just happens with all of us. Um, so, and I would chat back, because what else can you do? You're waiting for the bus, and then there's always something you say that you see that spark
Yeah.
of
You see them
understanding.
transform.
Yeah, and maybe that will not heal them then, but it's that spark that needed for them to find the path to heal.
Give them hope.
Yeah. And even that same day I had a reading with her, I met a friend of mine's mom, and literally, like, she came out and he introduced us, and she started talking to me. She said, oh, so you're his friend? And I'm like, yes. And then she just started to tell me about all her medical problems, and I had just had a session with her, and it was the first time that I understood. And I'm like, I understand what she means now, when it's like you are doing it, but unconsciously you need to awaken, you need to start searching and deciding which path to go.
Oh, your great
So
great
that's when I started.
grandmother.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
guardian,
So
eh?
my great grandmother, so I did visit a medium here in New Zealand as well, that got in touch, and she was waiting for me to make a decision on what path to go, and depending on what path, I think she has been with me, so she's also guiding me alongside my team. But I had a family member as well, and
Wow.
yeah,
I love that confirmation. It just makes me feel so excited that you've got the confirmation of the what
I
great great
did.
grandmother,
Great
great
grandmother from my
grandmother.
mother's side. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course you've got Buddhism in your genealogy as well,
I
and that's
do.
and now you probably don't mind about reincarnating into a worm because we know that it's not
No,
important.
no,
It
yeah.
doesn't matter now. It's
Mm,
always and it never really is up to the human mind. It's about the soul and what it wants to
yeah,
experience when it's in pure
exactly.
positive energy, right? When it
And I
goes
think
back.
that answer also came later, years and years, and maybe
Yeah,
decades later, because it was a recent thing. Because the more you get into the path consistently, it's like, it feels like, when I look back, it feels like there was that beginner level when you're still questioning. Why do you think that? Why do they say that? Why this, why that, and then you start getting answers for that, and you flirt with loads of stuff, and that path start going a little bit higher and a little bit higher. And I think that's why I don't think it matters at this point of my development, and most healers or spiritual people, when they get to that point, that it doesn't matter what the religion, because you went so high up that you understand that everything is just a wave.
it's
It's
about
just
being
a
open.
frequency. Even if we're
Yeah,
talking about God, there is one force.
source,
Do
force,
you want to
source.
call it God? Great, do it. You want to call Buddha? No, probably not, because it was a reincarnation, right? But like, whoever you want to give a name, you want to call Zeus, call it Zeus if you want. I don't care. Sometimes I work with the Greek gods just because I want to focus the energy of my work. So it's not that I believe it's a person, or flesh and blood. It's just I know it's the one source, but I want to focus on that loving energy. So I go to
Yeah,
Aphrodite,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know? And when it's more generic, when it's more or bigger, the healing, then I go to the general energy. So when you get to that level that is just energy, it doesn't really matter.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
Yeah, I love the witch part.
Yeah,
I've
I
got to
do. I'm
say.
very curious. I can't kick it out of my life,
No,
unfortunately. And that's
no. And
why,
can I tell you how so many of us have got it? We've got the
yeah.
witch genealogy, but you know, the word witch is like when people say don't be a witch, for example,
Oh, yes,
it's like it's got a negative connotation to it.
it does.
And it was always, I guess it's the programming of that word, right? And it was, well, if you're deemed a witch, then you have to be doing bad things. But actually, no, 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 that's not true, right? And I'm sure there are dark witches. Like, you know, in anything, you have people that use, we've, you know, we've got the light and dark side of everything, yin and yang,
Mhm.
balancing or whatever. But that's not what we're talking about. We're here on the platform of love, doing good, holding space, being who we came to be here, and fulfilling life's our purpose in this transformation,
Mm.
this time in on earth. Because we've been here so many times before, in
Mm.
whatever form. You could be that great grandmother reincarnated,
Mm.
but that great grandmother is the spirit you that's awakening you to you. Because come on, Alex, wake up and do what you came to do here
Yeah.
now. You know, that's probably
Yeah.
that's what it is. But medicine women in the past were referred to as witches. Soon as you know,
Yeah.
and that's not okay. We know that they weren't bad. They were doing good. They were healing.
Yeah, I think that's what I think at some part of my life that also negative connotation on the word was very heavy for me at the moment. I think because of the everything I've been through and everything I studied and all the clarity I got through my guys through meditation, even the darkest side doesn't scare me anymore. So I have friends that say like, how do you deal with those, like when what you could phrase it as negative spirits or low frequency. And I had some tricksters bursting through my practice, like I call it practice, but like anyway, just my work in general. And it's just like, isn't it scary, like moving stuff, or I don't know, like that dreadful energy, heavy energy
Yeah,
that
yeah,
and I'm like, if you understand, man, if you understand that, like they are also God, they are also part of the whole, the energy, they're just a different expression.
yeah,
Are they gonna stay on that state forever? No, eventually they're gonna go back to source. They're
yeah.
gonna go. They are light as well, but they are lost in darkness.
That's
So
right.
I just send them with my love and say, okay, not here.
Exactly. That's
I'm
exactly what
I'm
I was
I'm
going to
busy.
say.
I'm busy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Because often they present themselves in a certain way, but they're the shadows. And sometimes, depending on what the situation is, sometimes shadows we are clearing in our work, in our lives, things we're going through in our lives is a shadow we have to clear.
yeah.
Often we're clearing it for the genealogy, for the
Mm,
generations that might have created in the past. We're creating it for them. We're creating for, sorry, we are clearing it for them. We're clearing it for ourselves. And in doing that, we're standing in the gap for the past and the future generations. And if we can get it right now, that means the future generations don't have to go through it. But
mm,
also, I feel often that spirits, low vibrational frequency beings, etc., come to us. Firstly, that's our opportunity to put into practice the things that we know, that we've learned, okay? But also, we have the power to say, go back to where you came from, but also I'm empowering you with the ability to take yourself back to the light. If
mm.
that's what you wish, but please do not return here to give me
Yeah.
drama because you're not welcome here.
Yes. But there was one experience. I'm a bit of a Karen with. I go straight to God.
Oh, I
And
believe you
when,
go
when
straight to
those
God too.
when those things happen, I'm very much a Catholic because I go straight to the big man and I see the white beard and all my meditation.
That's
But
it.
when it happens, I go like, I'm like, you try to say, like, can you, like, no, please go away with love. this is my space, this is safe. And then if he keeps insisting, I just snap, like I just snap and I go straight to God, and I just go like, can you send who this soul belong to? Where's the family members, and then I just call God, and I call the angels, I called everyone. And one meditation I was doing, because I was a bit annoyed that I was trying to achieve something, and then this person just kept interrupting, and crashing my party. I actually went into meditation. I stopped everything and I went to the meditation, and I just went straight to his hole. And I was like, with my finger going like that, and I'm like, I'm trying to do some light work here, and I'm getting interested. Like, where is the family of this person? And literally, I like while I was in my meditative state, I just saw like a light burst into my room, kind of like a lamplight, like that. It's focused like that, and it opened like an umbrella on a dark street, like a street light. And then it got stronger and stronger and stronger. And then I saw his family come. It was a guy. I saw his family coming down. And then when I look at the person, I saw him crouch by my bed. And the look on his face just broke my heart, because he was annoying me, and I was annoyed. But then when I look at him, he just looked lost. He saw
Oh,
the light, and he was like, like when you're confused and you're like, what happened? Where am I? And then I saw his family taking him, and some others that were around, but some escaped. But I was like, so, like when you see things like that, how can you still have fear? Or, like, that's a negative energy. You just help them where you can.
yeah, because they're just highlighting they're there,
Yeah.
and sometimes they don't always have an easy way to tell you what they need, but we are empowered with that ability to do that, to send them to the light, or to send them to where they need to go to return to, or
Yeah.
whatever. And sometimes, we have people sending things to us because they want to take us out for some reason, or they want to cause some riffraff in our world. And even in situations like that, even if that being or spirit or whatever has come to cause some drama for you personally, we can change the destiny of that because we are
Yeah.
empowered that way.
Yeah. Just say no.
Alex,
No, thank you.
yes, Alex, we
Yes.
could talk for a long, long time. We have so
We
many
can.
things we could talk about, but please, we're going to conclude today, but you're very welcome to always come back and we can have a
Yeah.
chat, because I would love you to tell us about the Wiccan
Oh, yeah.
religion, okay, in the future. I'm really curious about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just feel that too is a point of awakening, because maybe there are some people that need to know more about that.
Hmm.
They have all these abilities and they don't know where they belong or whatever. And it's not because we want to tell people where they belong, but we want to give them some guidance to what it could be. So, what I would like to do before we say goodbye today is I would like you to hold up all those other items you did for the market stall video. The
Ooh.
little ones that you had, and
Yeah.
just show it to our audience.
Right. So I have some, I don't have all of them here, but I have some spirit animals that I created. So each of them will be for a different energy, right? They
Yeah.
all came to me in dreams, and I had to work with them. Okay. So it's not just for fancy, I don't know, like I actually
Yeah.
work with this energy of protection, of home, of
Yes.
patience. That one I'm still working with, is the latest one that popped up to me. But we have adaptability, intelligence with the octopus, and then we have that community love, devotion with the penguin. We have navigating through difficulty with ease and grace with the stingray. Then, of course, I have the collection of the four-leaf clovers. They come in different colors, different crystals for different energy for you to work with. I have that's for luck. Then I have the key rings with the heart, which is emotional healing or emotional blockage. I also have tea towels, which is more on home protection and happiness. My dream catchers also have different energy. I have some for new mothers so they can sleep better but still be aware. I have overall healing or better sleep. They are beautiful.
They
I
are beautiful.
and I have like some coasters that are nice and funky. I have some with the flower of life as well, so you can charge your drink while you place on top. I didn't
Oh,
pick that
love
up
that.
one.
I love that.
Yes. And there's more coming. There's more coming.
Okay.
More ideas.
Alex, so if somebody watching this video was overseas, other than, New Zealand, would they
Mm.
be able to get access to your products or your items?
I don't have an online store, so at the
Okay.
moment I'm just selling through the market, or if somebody contacts me through one of the social medias, TikTok. But if they do reach out, I'm sure we can come to an
I'm
agreement.
sure. I'm sure you can.
But I haven't created but it's hard for me to create an online store because I need to explain, it's not
Uh,
just post
yeah.
it.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
understand. I understand. And I believe that that will be there in the future. I think that's going to come in the future.
yeah,
Yeah, I have somebody that I can refer, someone whose store I can refer you to that might give you some ideas of how you do that.
yeah. Oh, great. Thank you.
Right. Alex, thank you
Right.
so much today for talking to me and sharing your beautiful energy, firstly,
Thank you.
and your team of light coming in and telling the story. And I really loved it. What an interesting conversation. And of
Yeah,
course, sharing your creations
yeah,
because they are so lovely and they're not just a coaster. There's a little bit more to it than
mm.
being just a coaster. They're lovely, the coasters, but there's more to it. And that's what I really love about it. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Rose, for having me and for this opportunity of sharing my work.
You're
I
very
would love.
welcome.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, everybody, if you're wanting to know more about Alex and what she does, and if you maybe want a personal session with Alex too, we'll put the contact details in the description box so you can contact her. All right. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you again, Alex.
Thank
And
you.
we'll catch you next time here on Ananda Rose. Namaste, everyone.
We'll stay.